Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Getting Personal with Parkinson's, a Facebook Live conversation series. I'm Whitney Chapman, the Programming and Production Coordinator of the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan's Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's Wellness Program, supported by New York's largest healthcare provider, Northwell Health. I am very proud to say that for over 15 years, the JCC has been hosting programs for individuals living with Parkinson's. And you can find out about all of our offerings by visiting our website, www.mmjccm.org/Parkinson's. And I'll put that link in the comments section below. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. This program is for anyone whose life has been impacted with Parkinson's, whether you're someone living with PD, or you have friends or family, or you're just interested in learning more. We want these conversations to help put a face to Parkinson's and to introduce you to people living and thriving with PD. And of course, we welcome your input. So if you want to be a guest yourself, or if you know of someone we should interview, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you've got a hot topic that you want to know more about, I'd also love to learn. You can email me directly at wchapman@mmjccm.org, and I'll put my email below in the comment section. Now, I am excited to introduce to you Liv Pilbeam. Liv is a young mom, mother of two, who was not expecting to receive a Parkinson's diagnosis in her 30s. Liv and I had a chat last week that we pre-recorded, and I want to share it with you now. While you're watching, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section below. And when our conversation is over, I'll come back and answer as many of them as I can. Enjoy the conversation. Liv, it is very nice to meet you. Welcome to Getting Personal with Parkinson's. You are zooming in from Norway. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and who you are.
So I'm Liv Pilbean. I am 36 years old. I was diagnosed a little under a year ago. I live in Oslo, Norway. I'm a regular rock-steady boxing participant, and yes, getting to grips with this new diagnosis.
How did you discover that you had Parkinson's? What made you seek out information or diagnosis? What was going on for you?
So it was during my first pregnancy. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and during the first pregnancy, I would explain that I had restless legs and I would get cramps in my legs to my doctor, and she of course dismissed this as completely normal, but of course I don't think I was able to quite convey how intense the cramping and the leg, is it called dyskinesis, when the foot was turning inwards, so I wasn't quite explaining that well enough. But when I explained to her that when I go to sleep at night, I often have my hand like this and then it twitches in a resting state, that's when I saw her expression change. She wanted to send me for the DAT scan quite a lot earlier than I actually made it, because I was breastfeeding my second child.
Okay.
When I was put into the system, so it wasn't before my second child was 9 months old that I actually got the diagnosis.
How did it feel when you got the diagnosis?
It was such a shock, because I was, as we in Norway say, I think in English you can say baby brain, but when you're breastfeeding and you're not sleeping very well, and suddenly I'm sent on this scan, and I think, okay, I better do it. But you're just thinking about these small humans you're trying to keep alive. So I hadn't really researched what this was all about. I just knew I had to take the scan, and I needed to pump enough so that I didn't have to breastfeed right after. So yeah, it was only, I was just thinking about all these technical things that I had to sort out so that I could do the scan. So when I got the telephone call that I had Parkinson's disease, it was a huge shock.
So they told you over the phone, not in person. Wow.
It was absolutely earth-shattering. I don't know if it could have been done any better. I do understand why the specialist had to do it the way she did, but yeah, it actually made I lost 10 kilos and didn't sleep for 3 days, so I ended up at the ER.
Mm-hmm. Emergency room. Yeah.
And I think I just went into a sort of fight and flight mode where all I could think about was my babies, and
of course,
it was really traumatic. I know that everyone does it very differently, but for me, I needed as much information as possible. So I just started. I basically told the woman at the supermarket, I'll go around engaging with people and trying to collect as much information about this disease as possible. And of course, it was quite terrifying because first I thought, right, well, the physical side of it I could deal with, but at least I get to keep my mind. And then I realized that's not necessarily true. Well, at least I get to keep my memories. That's also not necessarily true. So I think coming to that state where you're just very mindful of where you are right now and being grateful for what you have right now has been a real challenge. Because right now, my main problem is fatigue, and I'm very lucky, and I just got to keep on concentrating on what I have right now.
I first of all want to thank you for your honesty about wanting to tell your story, and that recognizing that how you chose to do it. And that was part of the reason I asked the question, is that the interesting thing about Parkinson's is that no two people have it the same. Nobody has the symptoms the same. Nobody has the response the same, even in relationship to medications and treatments and things like that. And I appreciated hearing that you were one of these people who said, okay, who has information, and opening it up, because a lot of people will be very insular and they'll go into that, okay, I don't want anybody to know, and I don't want it. And you can have your levels of privacy and levels of knowledge. But asking anybody in the world, like, what do you know? I mean, that's for some people, that's a very brave act. For you, that's how you went into managing this. And in other conversations we've had in this series, other people I've spoken to, both with Parkinson's and care partners, have often talked about this in the moment, and what you have today. And at the JCC, at the Jewish Community Center here, we have a partnership with the Whole Being Institute, which is on positive psychology. And there's a lot of similarities of people who are managing a diagnosis like this well, by pulling on those strengths, pulling on the capacity to, as you said, be grateful for what you have today, and to sort of look at things as they are today. You also mentioned, that it might happen this way or it might happen that way, and nobody knows. I mean, none of us really in our real lives know how our life is going to play out. We have these dreams, we might have plans, we might have goals, we might have vision boards, and we do those things. And then you get a diagnosis, which disrupts all of that. So what strategies or things are you doing to help you both stay in the moment and to be grateful? What are the tools that you use?
Yeah. That's a very complex question. I guess I haven't thought about it that way, because I actually found that it was nearly a little bit of I wouldn't say relief, but I've become very focused on what is important to me. I want to spend time with my children. I want to be a good influence in their life. I want to spend time with people I care about. And of course, I want to do a good job in my professional life. But the work-life balance perspective has shifted. I have a certain amount of energy, and my family comes first. That's become very clear for me. So I don't think I have any. I I don't have any. I haven't thought through any strategies yet, but priorities have become a lot clearer. There's a few things that I've been told that can help. When I'm feeling down, I don't push the feeling away. I'm allowed to feel bad. I'm allowed to have a bad day and feel sorry for myself. And then I have to be kind with myself. I can have an ice cream, and I can even go have a massage. I think that's very important. It's helped me a lot. And this is a technique I've learned from someone at the boxing. She said, yeah, you've got to be kind with yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned to me before we started this conversation that you're participating in rock steady boxing.
Yes.
What has that done for you? How did you find it? Why do you enjoy it?
I just Googled, and I think the Oslo affiliate might actually be the first one in Europe outside of the US. If I understood our trainer correctly, he was quite proud of this. We are around 30 people in my group that meet regularly 3 times a week for a 2.5 hour training session.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, quite intense. And I've been allowed by my boss to actually take time off work to do this training, because it's so important, not just for my physical well-being, mental well-being, and also the social aspect of it. It has. I sometimes a little bit grandiosely say that it's saved me. The rock steady boxing has been amazing. I've never boxed before in my life, but I've learned so much, and it's really been a blessing.
I would think, in hearing you describe it, I can see where on all levels it can be a blessing. It can be a way for that frustration.
Yeah.
At one point I took a boxing class. I'm not a boxer either. I'm a yogi. So, and getting pushed out of your comfort zone, right? There's a lot of that happens in boxing, not only in making contact with the bag, and having to learn how to own your own strength and power. But that ability to be pushed out of your comfort zone is important for brain health. It's important for longevity health, right? And most of us as humans don't, we like what we have. We don't want to be moved out of that zone. You mentioned your employer as being understanding. What was that like for you when or if you told them about your situation? How did that, have you told them, and how has that worked for you?
Yeah. I think I've been very lucky because my employer took it very well. I told her, of course, at once. She opened up about some personal family history that made me see her in a different light, and also, it was empathy, definitely a lot of empathy. My colleagues have also, to varying degree. I mean, I haven't had any negative, but I think confusion is definitely present. No one quite understands how a 30-something can get this disease, and there's a lot of there's not a lot of information out there for people under 60 what this is about. A lot of, I guess, preconceptions about the disease.
Yeah. What support, you mentioned that you've met there's a community with your rock steady boxing. Tell us about what Parkinson's support is like for you in Norway.
So we have this Parkinson Foundation, I guess it is. And they have something called Parkinson Net rolled out, which is basically a tool that can put you in touch with anything from logoped, is that what it's called in English? Sort of speech therapists, and physiotherapists, all kinds of specialists that I realized I need to make a network of people around me that I can draw on.
Yeah.
And I've also realized that it's best to start with this as soon as possible, to preempt any problems.
I am impressed by your proactiveness about living with this diagnosis. What has prompted that proactiveness? Is that who you are, or
children? I could have easily gone into a hole of depression very easily, but I had these two smiling little lovelies that just love their mother and need me. So there was no time to feel sorry for myself. I can't even say it now without getting a bit teary-eyed, but they absolutely just made me feel that I had to do absolutely everything I could. My 3-year-old, she's a very, she picks up on so much. And today she came to me and she was doing this with her hands. And she was saying, "Look, Mommy, I'm like you." And of course, I had my heart in my throat, but I knew what she was trying to do. She was trying to connect, and she was, but of course, I just tried to say that, no, you don't shake, and you will hopefully never, never shake. I have a fantastic husband who has had to take the brunt of you always it's always worse for people that are closest to you, isn't it? They have to be there in thick and thin, and he's had to put up with a lot from me. I have a fantastic mother who has been there for us in terms of child care. And I think, in the first phase, it was a bit of desperation, a bit of, as I said before, a sort of fight-flight response. But now I think I've realized it really is true. I've gone through all these stages of denial and grief and all these stages of understanding that it's actually real, that I have this diagnosis. And I've accepted it. Now I need to do everything I can to have a good life.
I know this can be an odd question, but what is Parkinson's teaching you?
Taking life a lot more slowly and appreciating things so much more. Absolutely. And it is funny, but I am actually grateful for that. I really do appreciate things a whole lot more now. And as I said before, this thing where I feel like I am prioritizing a lot clearer. What do I want to spend my time on, and what don't I want to spend my time on?
Are you able to be clear with that? And besides just knowing it, it's another thing to say no to things. Are you able to let yourself do that more boldly?
Yeah, absolutely. And if someone tries to, I have no problem saying Parkinson's. It's my get out of jail free card.
Good for you. I haven't heard it phrased that way, but good for you. For you. For someone else who is young and recently diagnosed, what would you wished you had known, and or what would you say to them?
Yeah. And I think back to the time right after the diagnosis, I really wish that there was more of a support network there in the very beginning, because I was in a complete meltdown crisis situation. I wish that there'd be more of an immediate sort of net to catch you, and just extremely grateful that I was able to find people that I could relate to, even though most of the people I know are now over 60. So I can't really it's very interesting how you can meet people in a very different life situation that you have so much in common with now. But yeah, just get out there and meet other people. When you say that there's other people that probably don't want to face the diagnosis, I think that must be really hard, because also my symptoms get a lot worse if I try and suppress them, if I'm not honest, and if I get stressed, if I'm if I'm concerned and if I'm aware of the fact that I'm shaking. I think just being honest has helped me a lot, at least.
That's a deep lesson for anybody. No, seriously, yeah. I don't know about culture in Norway. I have not yet been to your country. It's on my bucket list. But, in America, depending upon your culture within the American culture, we don't talk about things, how is everything? Everything's fine, So it's a courageous act to let yourself be with what's going on. And I loved earlier how you talked about you give yourself permission to have all those feelings, right? That's a wonderful vehicle for living life in the moment, right? Things come up. One of the things that I learned in my positive psychology training, and I've learned from many of the students who participate in our program, is that we all have bad days. Whether we have Parkinson's or not, we all have bad days.
Yeah.
And, but it's a day, an hour, a moment of time, and it doesn't have to define all of the time. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when you share that with someone else, you connect on a deeper level. You see the person for in a different way, maybe. So
you mentioned earlier some of the people you have met through your boxing program and your ping pong program, that they're all older. What wisdom have they imparted on you about living with Parkinson's?
Oh, so many things, and it's so many personality. So okay, now it's just a silly thing that's popping into my mind. But one of my mates who's over 60, I remember him explaining to me that he's now experiencing these kind of jolty movements. So he's thinking he might need to switch from red wine to white wine, because last night it got quite messy. And I just thought that was, such a great way of dealing with it.
Oh my God, that is terrific. Oh my goodness. That just put a huge smile in my face and heart.
Yeah.
That takes courage. Yeah. Anything else that you want to share about your journey, or any questions that you want to put out to the universe?
I just really, I hope that my openness maybe touches or helps someone else, and that I meet more people, that we can draw on each other's experiences and just help each other, because you're not alone.
Yeah. One of the reasons we started this conversation series was exactly what you just said. You're not alone. And when we met virtually, one of the reasons I wanted to tell your story, or to hear your story actually, is because I think it's important. I think it's important, especially to have someone who is a young mom and in your career. How are you making decisions? What's important to you? Because there are others on this journey with you. We may not have met them yet, but by having this conversation today, my hope is that it's going to open the doorway for you to meet more people that are in your space, and for us to learn. So I really appreciate getting to connect with you and getting to learn a little bit about you. And I want to also applaud you for your courageousness. Prior to us having the conversation, Liv and I had shared a couple of emails, and one of the things that was of a concern was, how do you live your life as the best mom you can be and live with Parkinson's? And I think you are doing an incredible job from someone who has just met you. But between our previous emails and what you've shared with us today, you're doing all the things that a good mom does. You know, you're there for your kids. You're making that your priority. You're taking care of yourself, self-care. You can't, we all know from the airlines, you know, you have to put take care of yourself first before you can really take care of someone else. And you're asking the tough questions and you're making choices because you want to be here for a really long time, as does any parent.
Yeah.
Right? So I have met many students who, at no fault of their own, aren't as confident or courageous to be proactive about certain things. We all have it. It's not a judgment on anybody else. But the fact that you mentioned earlier that you're going to start to look into voice, into different therapies, just so that you're prepared and being a little more open-minded so that you can sustain your best health and your best being, that's being a great mom. That's being a great mom. You're going to make mistakes regardless, and it has nothing to do with being a woman living with Parkinson's.
No.
Right? That's just the journey of being a mom. And the story that you shared with us about your daughter, you know, shaking and kind of wanting to connect with you, I totally get how you would have felt. And I also appreciated how you responded to her.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very kind of you to say I'm courageous. I've never thought of myself as that. So thank you very much. And I do feel myself tearing up when you say I'm a good mom, because of course I, in the beginning especially, all kinds of feelings were mixed there. You know, of course I didn't know that I had this disease when I got pregnant, but yeah, you feel like, yeah, all kinds of emotions were there. So I've now been able to sort my emotions into, I'm going to be the best mom I can possibly be for as long as I possibly can.
And that's the only wish any mom has, right? None of us get when we come into this life, we don't have all the details. We think we do.
Yeah. We
think we know what's coming down the pike. But I really appreciate meeting you. And I appreciate literally I look at you and I just see a courageous woman who is, my image is more of like, you've got this sword and you're just going to whatever's in your way because you are on this path. It might really be your boxing gloves that you're using instead of your sword. And, but kudos to you. Kudos to you. And thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Wow. I just think Liv is so inspiring, and I so appreciated and was humbled by her proactive approach. I know that Liv is very interested in meeting others who are early diagnosed with Parkinson's. And if you are one of those people and you'd like to meet Liv, will you do me a favor? Send me an email and I'll be more than happy to put you in touch. My email, wchapman@mmjccm.org, will be in the comments section below. If you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did, I want to ask a favor of you. I'd like to ask you to hit the share button, which is just below this image on your Facebook page, to share this conversation and to help us spread the word, not only about this conversation and this series, but also our Parkinson's wellness programs at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. If you or someone you know is interested in learning more about participating in our programs, we offer things both virtually and in person. We'd be more than happy to talk with you. You can complete our intake form, which is also in the link below, visit our website, or just contact me. However you want to get started, we would love to have you. And please don't hesitate to reach out. We don't want you to face Parkinson's alone. We have programs, resources, activities, all designed to help you. So thank you for spending a little bit of your afternoon with us today. We look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.